Okay, good evening, and we're going to pick up where I left off on our last session, talking about the rapture and the second coming being two separate events. And that's one of the biggest thing that most people get confused. And when you get that confused, then your theology gets all messed up, and you start interpreting Scripture incorrectly. Another big mistake that people make is understanding what the tribulation or Jacob's trouble is all about. They don't understand that it's not for the church. And I've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating again, that this time frame of Jacob's trouble, and that's really the best term to use, because this has been prophesied through the book of Jeremiah, that this time frame would come upon the nation of Yasharel. And of course, when you say Jacob's trouble, Jacob's name was changed to Israel. So really, this is Israel's trouble, or Yasharel is really the Hebrew word for Israel, is Yasharel. This is their time of trouble. And of course, it was prophesied that it would be used by our Creator Yahuwah to bring the nation to a point of that in their misery, he said, I think it's in the book of Amos, he said, in their misery they'll seek me. In other words, in their trouble that they're going to be going through. And I've also said this before, but it bears repeating, that only a third of the nation of Yasharel will come to recognize who the Messiah is. 2/3 of the Yahudim, or the Jews, will perish during this terrible time frame. Well, not only them, but there's going to be a tremendous amount of Gentiles who will die during this time frame. See, a lot of people don't even really understand what lies ahead, how horrible of a time frame this really is. And of course, I'm not a doom and gloom person. I don't like to preach about negative things and things that are depressing. And of course, this is not depressing if you're a believer, when you understand that we won't be here to have to endure what lies ahead. But we do know, we all have probably loved ones or friends that we know that aren't prepared, that aren't ready, they have no idea of what lies ahead. But in order for us to be a better witness to them, it's better for you and I to understand and have the right interpretation of these end time events. It's not good if you're not completely convinced on what what the Scripture has to say, and once you're not really confident enough to share these things that are about to happen unless you've already been convinced of what the Scripture has to say. Most people have no clue or idea that the first 3.5 years of this time frame, Jacob's trouble, that about 2 billion, I mean 2 with a B, not 2 million, but 2 billion people on this planet will perish in just the first 3.5 years. And then the second half of this tribulation period, about another 2 billion will also perish. So this planet has close to 8 billion people. I think it's 7.4, 7.5 billion people on the earth today. And so during this time frame, the total of 7 years, about 4 billion, so over half the planet will die during this time frame. So like I said, there's never been any time like it before. And in fact, the Messiah said that if it wasn't cut short, that there would be no one left to be saved. And so that's his purpose for coming back at the second coming, at the Battle of Armageddon, to defeat the enemies of Yasharel, and also to remove the sinners that are left on the earth off the planet. Because once the millennial reign, and that means that Yahushua himself will reign on the earth from Jerusalem. He will rule and reign the planet, and once the millennial reign starts, all natural people that are living will be that's made it through the tribulation, whether they're Gentile believers or if they're Jews or Yahudim believers, they will be allowed to enter into the millennial reign of the Messiah. Now, of course, the church won't be here. We will be. Our new home is the New Jerusalem. That's what the book of Revelation says. Chapter 21 and 22 talks about the fact is that no one will be allowed to enter the New Jerusalem except those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. This is the separate teaching, and I don't want to get into much of this, but I'll just mention there's a book of life, and then there's a Lamb's book of life. The Lamb's Book of Life, I believe, is totally different from the Book of Life. The Lamb's Book of Life are those that have received the Messiah during the church age, during the time that the Ruach was given. Those are the ones that are married to the Messiah. In Revelation chapter 19, these are the ones that have made themselves righteous with the robes of righteousness that's given to us by the Messiah. It's not our righteousness, it's his righteousness that has been given to us, but it's because we put faith and trust in him that this righteousness has been imputed to us. And these are Jews and Gentiles who have come to know the Messiah and have put their faith and trust in him. We are what the scripture declares as the church, and we are the ones who will go in the rapture of the church. And the rapture is really, the rapture was never promised to Israel at all, or Yasharel. It's only been promised to the church. Now in the church there are Jews, or Yahudim, but Yahuwah, once a Jew becomes a believer in the Messiah, if he does before the rapture happens, Yahuwah doesn't really recognize him or see him as a Jew. Now that's hard for a lot of Jews to take, to deal with, but the fact is, there's really three types of people on the earth today. There's the Jews, there's the Gentiles, and then there's the church. The church composed of Jew and Gentile believers who are born again, who are now the children of Yahuwah, and also are the bride of the Mashiach, of the Messiah. Now, a Jew can become part of the church. A Gentile can become part of the church, but they have to put faith and trust in the Messiah and do that before the rapture happens. Now, once the rapture happens, the salvation will still be available to the Jews and to Gentiles, but they're not part of the church. They're saved and will be allowed to enter the millennial reign and to live on this planet for 1,000 years if they survive. There'll be people still dying during the millennial reign. There'll be people who are still getting sick during the millennial reign. But that's why the healing of the nations, the tree of life will be available for the healing of the nations, and so forth. I don't want to get too far into all that, but the fact is that the church's home is in the New Jerusalem, or it's what people know today as heaven, but it's really a city coming down out of heaven, how it's described, and it's too big of a place to really rest upon this earth. It's got to either be, maybe like a satellite orbit around the planet. I don't know. It doesn't really give us all the great detail about that. But it does say that it will be the light source of the earth during the millennial reign. Just like, say, the moon or the sun. In fact, the scripture says the moon and the sun will grow dark at the end of the tribulation. But during the millennial reign, I believe the New Jerusalem will be the light that will light up the earth at that time. And that's not really that important to get into debate about that, but those are just things that appears to be that what will happen. But the main thing is, we do know the fact is that the New Jerusalem is the home of the church. It's written over in Philippians chapter 3, verse 20, for our citizenship is in heaven. Oh wow, what a privilege and a blessing for those that are resurrected and redeemed. That will be our home. Now some people say, well, I thought we were going to rule and reign with the Mashiach here on the earth. Well, we will, but that's not going to, this planet will not be our home. We can rule and reign from the New Jerusalem. I believe we'll be able to go back and forth to the earth, but our home will be in the New Jerusalem that Yahusha has been preparing for us. He made a promise that he was going away to prepare a place for us. And he said that where I am, there you may be also. And so that's something that we really have something to look forward to as well. We'll pick this up on our next session together. So again, thank you for joining me this evening. I love you, and I thank you for all the ones that have posted kind comments and things, and then those that want to say ugly things. I still love you, and but I'm not going to argue with you about what you believe. I've stopped all the arguing that I'm going to do with people. I've learned just to share what Yahuwah has given me. Whether people receive it or not, that's totally up to them. and but I don't get into arguing or just, about doctrine or different things that I've shared with other people about the truth of the word of Yahuwah. So with that said, we'll see you in our next session, and until then, shalom.